Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Jim and Shelby Show, All Things Print Podcast. I'm Jim Raffle, and I'm joined as always by...
Shelby Sapusik. How are you today, Jim?
I'm doing great. Looking forward to today's episode. How about you?
I am, of course. It's been a while since we've done one, so
And we call this the All Things Print Podcast. And so if you tuned in today to hear something about printing specifically, this episode's a little different, right?
yes, but we've done this before, but we should still explain it.
So from time to time, we talk about things that are important to our business because we figure that many of our listeners have their own businesses. And so we're going to talk about a business topic that helps us grow our business, I guess would be the best way to say it.
Yeah, and we are in, our business is color management, but it is color management for printing. And so how do we get our clients? How do we get our consulting gigs? And so we're going to talk about one of those ways.
And so today we're going to focus on the training component of our business, or as we like to refer to it, we basically train others as a way to find future consulting clients, right? I mean, that's not the only reason, but that's one of our objectives with all the training we do is to find future consulting clients.
I suppose I actually enjoy sharing the knowledge that we have too, but one of the questions I would have for you right off the bat though is we tell ourselves, and not just you and I'm talking about the general ourselves, that we should never give away information or knowledge for free. And I think even through some of these podcast episodes, we do that. I mean, these are free. And so what are your feelings there when you talk about training?
I think you should give everything away for free because the hard part is implementation. So,
Okay. When it's hard, yeah.
I mean, obviously there's degrees of free. And so, for example, when I'm a G7 expert trainer, there's a fairly high cost associated with attending that class because there was a tremendous amount of intellectual property put into that program by multiple people, and by an association now that manages the program. And so there's a reason for that course to have the price it has. But like when we give information away on this podcast, it doesn't mean that the value of this is any less. It's just that our cost of producing this is honestly relatively low, other than the time and frustration to try and come up with regular podcast topics. But
Or just time to do it.
yeah, with the way our schedules have been lately, that's absolutely true. But so I have a friend who he basically says that if you give away the information for free, it doesn't necessarily mean people are going to be able to do what you do. It just means you're telling them how you do it. And if they want to become a do-it-yourselfer, they're going to have to go through all the pain and the experiences of doing it wrong, even if you've given them all the information. So, I spent the better part of the last 2 days on site with a client, and I'm very, when they're willing and they want it, I'm very talkative while I'm working. And so as I was going through the profiling process, there was interest. So I took time and I slowly explained exactly what I was actually doing. When I was evaluating prints visually, I explained what I was doing. I looked around at everybody and made sure that it didn't look like, that there were confused looks. If there were questions, I said, hey, it looks like you have a question. And so even though I was there as a paid consultant, I had made the decision that because I had kind of assessed my audience and the group I was working with, that I was going to continue to train, and explain what I was doing. And the goal was exactly what I said, is A, to transfer the knowledge, but B, to potentially gain additional future consulting work by showing my willingness to share what I know. And not that we both have heard stories of consultants in our business,
Yeah,
who come in and they don't want anybody watching what they're doing. And when they ask them questions, they're like, I don't tell people how I do it. And that's the exact opposite of the way we operate, right?
true. And I was going to mention that. I'm glad that you did. I think that's true. When you say, that training can be 50% of our business, well, it's honestly doesn't bring in a lot of money for our business on its own. But when we are consulting, we do run into two different types of people generally. Those people who are just like, hey, please just go fix it. I don't care how you do it. Just please fix it. Just I'm going to be over here doing this, whatever, fix it. And then there's people like, please show me how you fix it. I want to learn. And when you're gone and this breaks again, I want to know what to do without having to pick up the phone and try to track you down every day. And, you would think that those types of people, we would end up not keeping them as ongoing consultant work, but I think that's not true. I think that, like, as you said, they respect your willingness to share the secret sauce in color management, so to speak. I think they appreciate that, and your willingness to educate them and wanting to help them learn is a huge deal. And they're still going to come across stumbling blocks, let's face it, because technology keeps changing, machinery, the inks, whatever, everything's going to change. There's going to be variables. And some days they are going to have to pick up the phone and call us again because we just generally have more experience in what we're doing.
Right. And the other thing that I've been thinking about over the last couple of days, just because of other things happening, is that I believe that when you're a slow and patient trainer, in other words, even if you're there as a consultant, you take the time, like I took over the last couple of days, to share your knowledge. What you're really doing is you're building a relationship with the person you're doing that with as well, especially when it's in a small group environment. And so it becomes much less what I know, although what I know is important and what you know is important, the greater we, what we know is important, but what we do with it, with the people we work with, is what really matters. And so if I am one of those people who just goes off in the corner and says, don't watch what I do, I've in no way grown my relationships, which means I ultimately probably won't grow my business. And I saw it happen over the last couple of days by freely sharing the information I had and the knowledge I have with people who I really didn't need to. I mean, there was no reason to. One of them is going to be doing some favors for me that I didn't even ask for. It was something that just in conversation, he figured out I needed something, and he has the ability to provide it. And he goes, hey, I really appreciate what you did over the last couple of days, keeping me involved and explaining this stuff to me. I know it slowed you down a little bit. And I'm like, it really didn't. You and I both know how this works. More than half our time is waiting for printers, waiting for heat presses, waiting for whatever. And so it didn't slow me down, but his perception was it did. And so he was grateful. And as a result, he's going to do me a favor, which will help us in our business. So it's just always better to give away the information and give away the knowledge. What you can't give away is the doing, right? I really believe that you can't give away the doing. You can't go in and build 3 profiles for someone or teach someone to do profiles, while you're there face to face and not be getting paid for it. That just doesn't work as a consultant. And it doesn't matter if you're selling color management services or if you're selling whatever service you're doing. If you're a vehicle wrap person, there's nothing wrong with, I know they're rappers, right? I mean, if you're a rapper, there's nothing wrong with explaining to someone how to rap, right? I mean, you meet them at an industry event and they're like, well, how do you wrap, the front end of a 2022 Volkswagen Jetta? I don't know.
Those are some of the best demos on a trade show floor.
Right. And they might just stand there and they may even just verbally describe it, right? But when the guy says to you, well, can you show me? Well, now that's a whole different thing, right? Can I show you? Well, yeah, you can pay me. I'll come to your shop and I'll show you, right? That would be my answer. But I stand there all day at a trade show and explain it to you because I that's just what we do.
Right. I love what you said about relationships. I totally agree with that. Anytime you do some training and you're speaking in front of people, or even if it's a small group in a consulting gig, or you're in front of a classroom, those are connections that you're making. You never know where those connections are going to lead, because that person could be like, hey, I heard Jim and Shelby speak and they were talking about this. It sounds like this is the problem that you were having. Here's their info. Why don't you give them a call? That's all it takes.
Well, right, because everyone loves this. I actually don't like it. Everyone loves the saying. I guess not everyone, because I don't, but a lot of people. You've taught me to be more precise. So what a lot of people like is that saying. I don't want to get this wrong. It's not what you know, it's who you know.
Yeah, that's
My
correct.
concern with that is it minimizes and devalues what we as professionals have gained in, professional knowledge, technical knowledge, and that type of knowledge. And so what I think is probably more accurate is something along the lines of what I know is enhanced by who I know, right? And so if
Perfect.
if I don't know what I know, then who I know isn't going to help me in my business. But if I'm a very capable person in whatever I do, if I'm a rapper, if I'm a color management consultant, if I'm a sign shop owner, right? Let's use that one. I'm a sign shop owner, and I'm very good at it, right? I know how to get a job in the front door and out the back door. That's my skill. That's my knowledge. And I work well with the people in my shop, and I run a good shop. That's my skill. That's my what I know. Well, that's extremely valuable when you apply it to the who you know. But if you just know 100,000 people, no one knows that many, but if you know a very large group of people and you're very social, but you have no service or product or skill to bring to them, then the who you know is just a big party, right? And so I don't know. I feel like sometimes we forget to connect the important things in our, especially in, not so much in personal, but in business. I feel like we really forget to connect the important pieces. And for me, it's a combination of the what you know and the who you know. So
Well, I think in any relationship with a person, you have to find something that is relatable. And so, what do you both have in common to talk about? Well, if you're in a situation where there's a problem in the printing room, there's something in common, and you can build a relationship off of that. That's true in any walk of life.
absolutely, absolutely. Do you have a dollhouse behind you? I'm sorry, I had to
I do.
ask.
I do.
Is
Full
that is a
size.
dollhouse?
Yeah, I'm planning actually. I'm building this. Well, it's built, but it needs refurbishing. So I'm going to clean it up and paint it. But I'm also going to do some dye sub work, like for the flooring and the paintings, and some of the furniture.
Well, that's
And
cool.
it's for a special little girl in my life.
That is very cool. I know I'm looking back and I'm like, what is that? So for those of you who don't know, we do this regularly. If you're new to the podcast, and I know Shelby's background, and I'm like, what is back there?
New project. I am going to be doing some dye sub printing for it though.
That's very cool. That's what, who knows? There might be an episode in that.
Never know. We'll see how it turns out first. Well, it's kind of daunting right now.
So back to training. I kind of want to maybe start wrapping up that topic.
So what advice would you give people based on training? Like if someone was starting a new business and they're like, oh, all of a sudden I realize, my knowledge might be worth something to people. How would they start out being a trainer? How would they find a venue or a vehicle for that?
So this is a great topic and great question. So I'm going to go back to the sign shop one, right? Because sign shop owners sell essentially advertising and marketing materials, right? I mean, that's the vast majority of what they're doing. They're some form of advertising, marketing, or information. And so let's say a big part of your business is actually monuments, the sign that when you build a new building or you take over a new facility, it's a sign to promote your business. So it's going to be a combination of your logo, probably put on some kind of a structure. And so it's a very important piece of your branding, especially if you're a new business in a new neighborhood. And so if you're the owner of that sign shop, what you could do is find civic organizations that are predominantly attended by business owners, right? I don't know, Lions clubs, people like that, where a lot of business owners show up. And you could volunteer to speak at one of their luncheons. And you could talk about the importance of good signage for your business. And I think that if you own a sign shop, you have a lot of knowledge about what kind of signs work and what kind of signs don't, or maybe not work, or are more effective in different industries, in different locations in a town or a village. And I think to get up there and share that kind of information, you're not giving anything away. All your competitors know this as well. But if you're the one who's willing to stand in the front of the room and share that information, with a large group, or even individually a networking environment, right? You go to a networking event and you can say, hey, well, do you own a business? Yeah, I do. What kind of sign do you have up front? Oh, we moved in and we had some guy make this banner, and it's been on the side of the building for 5 years and it's faded. And I'm not even sure how people even find us anymore. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that happens. And you can say, oh, well, that was probably great, and that what you do, you don't laugh. You go, oh, well, that was probably a great start, and it was probably what you needed on the first day you got in business. But that's actually my business. Do you mind if I swing by and take a look at what you got and maybe talk about some ideas with you? It's like, next thing you know, you're just talking to another friend, right? You're offering a guy advice. You're not saying, let me sell you a sign. That's not it at all. You're saying, hey, let me come see what you got, and I'll let you know what's out there. And if you want to buy it from us, great. And if you've already got a relationship with someone, that's fine too. And just think of us someday if that doesn't work out. That's actually how we get a lot of our businesses. We train people. We've had people in our training classes who come right out and say, hey, I'm working with so-and-so. And, and they'll say, like, I know it's one of your competitors. I'm like, honestly, in color management, we're a lot more colleagues than competitors. I mean, yes, we sometimes go after the same customers, but mostly we're colleagues. And I always just say, that person's good. I know them. I know their work, and I would just keep working with them. But if they're ever not available, or you've got something they don't want to get into, or whatever happens, keep us in mind. And again, like you said, and we both said, you've developed that relationship with them by being part of their training, by helping them expand their knowledge. So.
Good answer.
What?
I said that was a good answer.
Oh, my hearing aids must not be working.
Uh-huh. Need to tune up the Bionic Man.
Yeah, I do. If I could get off the road and stop consulting, this is like this is a rare day. I'm sitting in this office, and I thought I'd be here all next week, and not looking that way at the moment. So, I'll be all training, right? Consulting.
Right.
I'll technically be consulting, but it's really all training at some point. So, yeah. Is it too soon to start talking about UV Energize?
No, I don't think so. It's like only a month away or so.
Yeah, it's September. I was just looking at the dates. Let me jump over here. It's September, like 5th and 6th, I want to say. I think that's
is it
6th and 7th? We fly in on them.
Yeah.
It's September 6th and 7th. You can find information about it. Email one of us, Jim at Colorcasters or Shelby at Colorcasters, and
we'll look at our social media.
Yes, social media. We can request that our producer Jake put something in the show notes, so you can find a link there. And so that's coming up in September. And then there's a bunch. The reason I say that is there's a bunch of trade shows, conference type things happening between now and the end of the year. And if you've been following the podcast at all, you'll figure it out that Shelby and I really like doing episodes around trade shows and conferences. So we've got some pretty exciting episodes coming up.
We also have a super secret one or two coming up in September, but that's going to be a fun one, but I'm not going to.
All right. Well, we thank you as always for attending. If you have episode ideas or you just want to get questions to us, the email.
Or if you want to be a guest, I think next episode we're going to have a guest again. So we are still taking guests.
A guest and a cool product.
That's right.
It's kind of a double whammy. Yeah, it's going to be a fun episode. You can always reach us via email. That's the easiest way, I think. Jim at Colorcasters and Shelby at Colorcasters. But the social media channels for the company are all out there. It's Colorcasters on Twitter. It's Colorcasters LLC, I believe, on Facebook and LinkedIn, right?
And Instagram. But is it still really called Twitter? I thought it changed.
X.
Okay. X. I haven't seen the change yet, but
no, it is X. You're absolutely right. It's not. It's the problem is they haven't changed it in the iPhone app yet. But you're right. I logged in on my website and it was just an X in the corner.
I heard there might be some issues with that though, because Microsoft actually already has that copyrighted. We'll see.
I am quite. It's
going to be interesting. We'll see if it actually.
We're going to digress just a little bit. The thing I figured out about Elon Musk is he is a little impulsive sometimes. So, and apparently it might be an entrepreneurial trait, but.
Well, he's been trying to make X happen for like 20 some odd years and has kind of failed along the way.
Absolutely.
So we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, we will see you again in a couple weeks. And
Okay,
until then, we enjoyed doing this episode and we're glad that you all listen.
thanks.